Welcome to Flip It Furniture. My name is Amy. Today I'm giving my daughter's old nightstand a makeover. She was really into Kawaii and My Melody. I redid this for her a couple years ago, but she's grown out of it now. And since I now have an antique booth, I was thinking it would be the perfect little piece to sell. Somebody could just pick it up, grab it, and go. So I've already taken this outside and I sanded it. There was some candy on the top, some nail polish. I just sanded all of that right off. So now I have it in the house and I need to clean it. Of course, I take the drawers out and the hardware, and then I'm spraying to clean. What I'm spraying is actually distilled white vinegar. It's a super cheap, easy way to disinfect your furniture. And because this is pre-painted and it was pre-prepped, I'm really not worried about like needing an adhesive primer or anything like that because I know that it was already done correctly the first time. So the next step is to take off that little front piece with the My Melody on there, and I just want to prep the surface around that area. So I know that I kept it on when I painted it. So I'm just kind of using my little hand sander and sanding everything flush. There's just a little bit of like paint chunks and things that got caught in between that screen. And I do plan to put some decoupage on this piece. So I'm going to prime it with, I have some of Dixie Belle's old primer. It was Boss in gray. So this is just like it's a blocking primer. It's not for adhesion, but it's going to work just fine. I just need something so that decoupage paper can grip onto it. I could have just used white paint actually, but because I knew I was going to use this Boss for the top for all, when I sanded all that particle board came through, I just want to make sure that I have a little primer over that. And then of course over the sides, because I am going to decoupage the sides with this decoupage paper by Dixie Belle Paint Company called Heirloom Roses. I think it's so pretty. And I actually have two of them, so I thought, oh, that'll be perfect to cover the stripes and the little strawberries. And please don't judge me. I was totally in the groove of things and I wasn't paying attention, and yes, my brush is in my mouth. So for this, my decoupage medium is just going to be, I have Dixie Belle's clear coat in satin, and that's my favorite medium to use on decoupage papers because it doesn't dry super fast. I get a little bit more working time with it. And I like to just apply my sealer or my decoupage medium, whatever you want to call it, in rows. I usually don't do more than like 2 rows at a time because I want to make sure that I'm using that plastic wrap in my hand to get all those wrinkles out. And you know, it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm probably not going to get them all out, but I just want to get a lot of them out. I don't know if you know this, but I am on Facebook a lot. I'm pretty engaged over there. I post every single day. I try to comment back, but I do post every day, so there's tons of comments that come in. And wow, the last piece of furniture that I decoupaged, there were like not a lot of wrinkles, but holy smokes, there were a couple wrinkles in there, and I got so much they gave me such a hard time about it. I was really surprised because I don't know, that tells me that maybe somebody's never decoupaged before. The people who said that, because you know, sometimes it just happens. You're gonna get some wrinkles in that paper. It's not that big of a deal. But you know, there is, you know, when there's too many wrinkles, then it looks goofy. But if you have a couple of wrinkles, I don't really think it's anything to stress about. It's a tissue paper, it's decoupage paper, it's gonna happen, you know. And like you just saw, if you're getting too much pulling on your decoupage paper, I like to spray a little bit of water from my water mister, and that expands the fibers on the paper, so it'll help you to get less wrinkles. You just don't want to soak that paper. And now, since I did spray the water, I can easily remove this little white part on the bottom. I'm just tearing it right off. I don't like to cut it with my scissors because then there's just that straight line. So I'll just tear it with my fingers. Then I apply my decoupage medium under that little part and just rub it down again. And then I'm gonna wait I don't like to cover my decoupage paper until it's completely dry. So I wait a couple hours on these sides. I put another piece of the decoupage paper on the other side to match. But now on this front one, I don't have enough of that one decoupage paper, but that's okay. I'm just gonna use another one with flowers on it. That's kind of similar. So the front will have it's a different paper, but they go together, so it works out really well. And I'm just gonna cover that little part that goes into the window. So I did cut my decoupage paper here with scissors. And I cut it to where it was bigger than that little piece. And I'm just gonna do it like I always do with all of my videos. And if you really want a more in-depth decoupage, how to decoupage your furniture, I have a couple of videos out already, but I will link one in the description box below for you. Once you get used to putting decoupage on furniture, it's a really good way to, you know, if you have a lot of texture that you don't like on a piece, or say you blew through the veneer and you don't know how to fix it, if you don't want to replace that, it's a great way to like cover things. Decoupage, there's sheets that are small, they have sheets that are big. You can buy them on Etsy. I like Makeovers. I'll link them in the description box below too, because they carry like all of the brands that I really like. So you can check out a lot of decoupage papers on there too. And then a couple hours later, when everything's dry, I come back with my little hand sander here, and I'm just sanding away at that edge. So that's how I remove the edge here. If it was on, say, like a drawer front, I would probably use my razor. So it just depends on the surface that you're decoupaging, how you're gonna get the excess off. Since I got a nice edge here, I can just sand on that edge and it's gonna look perfect. So once I have all that excess off, then I take my Dixie Belle's clear coat in satin, and I'm just gonna add one coat over the paper. And you know, you could add 2 coats, but I know that I'm gonna do my sprayer later on, so I'm just gonna add 1 coat for now, just to make sure everything's locked in there. So now for our main color, I'm using Dixie Belle Chalk Mineral Paint in Yankee Blue, because I found it to be matching to the side, the decoupage paper on the sides. It actually matches like almost perfect. I also saw somebody, I think it was it was either one of the content creators for Dixie Belle or a brand ambassador. They matched this paper with In the Navy, and it was gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. But I'm gonna do the Yankee Blue because it's just a little bit lighter, and I have an idea. I don't want there to be too much contrast with the front papers since they don't match the side papers. So we'll see how it goes. You know, at this point, I'm just kind of experimenting. Like you could see, I could actually see some of the leaves in there would be really great with Antebellum Blue by Dixie Belle. So, I mean, there's tons of different colors that you could do. You could even match it with some drop cloth or a cream color. But I just chose Yankee Blue for this. I feel like looking at this piece originally, it's very like country cottage looking. So I kind of want to go with that feel. That's kind of why I'm making all the choices that I'm doing. And then, oh, do you see my mistake here? Okay, then I decided to add some decoupage paper to the little drawer front here. But can you spot my mistake? So when you're using a decoupage paper, that's like a tissue paper, you want to make sure you have a lighter color underneath. And for whatever reason, I just completely blanked. I forgot, and I'm just going ahead, working along. And you can see that darkness from the paint on the drawer front. You can see it go right through my decoupage paper. So of course right there, I'm like, oh geez, I caught my mistake. I took the decoupage paper off, and I'm adding a coat of drop cloth because it's cream. So I actually used the same decoupage paper. I just let it dry. And then I'm gonna just re-add it once my paint dries. But yeah, that's a big no-no. If you're doing decoupage, you wanna make sure that you either prime or you paint a lighter color underneath your paper. Because if you don't, you'll see that darkness. And you don't want that. We're paying for this decoupage paper, so we want it to be, you know, gorgeous and beautiful, and you want to be able to see it. So as you can see now, once it dried, I added my decoupage medium, and then look at the difference. It's bright and light because I have that nice cream color behind it. So now I decided to do something funky. I'm using Dixie Belle's chalk mineral paint in the color Cottagecore. This is like it's almost like a salmon. God, that just reminded me of Friends when Ross says about his pink shirt, it's salmon. Yeah, this is exactly what color this is. It's a pinkish, orangish, just really pretty color. And I was thinking it matches that flower on the drawer front. So this will give it that pop, just something a little bit extra. You know, I could have went with drop cloth, white, even gold, but I want something different. I notice in my booth, when I have a piece of furniture that's just extra, extra, it sells pretty quick. So we'll see how this one does. This is my theory, and I'm just kind of testing things, you know, with my booth on what sells and what doesn't. And so we'll see. So I'm adding that cottage door to just that little piece on the top there, and then I'm going to add it along the middle band on the bottom, across the whole bottom, like the sides and the front is what I mean, that little middle piece. You know, I've been painting furniture for about 9 years now, and I think a couple years ago I would have never ever added this color, never. But the more I do it, the more I'm like, just give it a try. If I didn't like this when I was done, I'd have just painted right over it with the Yankee blue again. You know, don't be afraid to take risks, because you can always just paint over it, unless you're doing something like adding on to your decoupage paper or blending, you know, then you want to be a little bit more careful with your risks. But even then, you can always just paint over it. And this, I gotta be honest, this was a big risk for me because my husband was like, no, don't add that piece on the bottom. And I was like, no, I have to. I don't know. I just feel it. And then, do you know, he came back in and he goes, oh, no, I don't like it. And I said, well, it's my art. I just gotta follow my heart. And then I remembered Katja from Katja Furniture. She used to have merch that said something like, I think it said, follow your art. That's like the perfect saying. And that's kind of what this reminds me of. I had to do it. It's my art. You know, it's what my heart is telling me to do, so I gotta do it. And then I seal the entire piece with Dixie Belle's clear coat in satin. And I love my sprayer for this. And here it is, all finished. I feel like it's a really colorful, bright, happy piece. Like it would be a great accent piece of furniture in someone's cottage. I picture it with a vase with flowers and a little reading book. You know, it's just a happy little bedside table. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, I'd love it if you hit that like and subscribe button, and I will see you next time.